The human man named Jace stood inside a cold metal chamber, his breath shaking as he looked at the two alien sisters sitting on the floor. He had been brought to this strange underground facility only 1 hour ago, but it already felt like a nightmare. The sisters were young, maybe 18 or 19 in human years, and their skin carried a faint silver glow under the dim blue lights. One sister had short hair and brave eyes. The other had long braided hair and fear written on her face. Jace had seen many things across the galaxy, but nothing made him as angry as what the alien guards told him when he arrived. "Human, you will pick one of these sisters," the guard said in a cold voice. "You will repopulate our dying clan with her. You must choose now." Jace felt his jaw tighten. He hated how the guards spoke like the girls were objects. Gosh. The sisters did not look at him. They just held each other's hands tightly, as if the world was ending around them. Jace slowly stepped closer, his boots echoing in the empty room. He expected the sisters to move away, but instead, they simply watched him with wide, scared eyes. He crouched down so he wouldn't look big or dangerous. "Hey, I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. The sisters didn't speak, but the younger one nodded slightly, as if she wanted to believe him. The guards behind the glass window became impatient. "Make your decision, human," one barked. Jace ignored them. He kept his eyes on the sisters. "What are your names?" he asked gently. For a moment there was only silence. Then the older sister finally whispered, "My name is Lyra. This is my sister Nolly." Their voices were weak, as if they had not eaten properly for days. Jace could see bruises on their arms. He felt sickness twist in his chest. "How long have you been here?" he asked. "3 cycles, Lyra whispered. "We had no choice. They took us." Nolly held on to her sister tighter, tears slipping down her glowing cheeks. Jace's fists tightened. He wanted to break something. These people wanted him to pick one sister and leave the other behind. The thought made him feel sick. He looked at the glass window where the guards were watching proudly. "This is wrong," he thought. "Humans don't behave like this. Not me." He looked back at the sisters. "Listen," he said quietly. "I'm going to get you both out of here." Lyra's eyes widened with disbelief. "But they will kill us if we try to run," she whispered. Jace gave a small smile, the kind a soldier gives before doing something reckless. "They can try," he muttered under his breath. He stood up and turned to the window. "I won't choose," he said loudly so the guards heard him clearly. The guards stared at him in confusion. "You must choose one," one said. "That is the rule." Jace shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "I choose both." The alarm lights immediately began flashing red. Sirens screamed through the building. Jace grabbed the sisters' hands and pulled them up. "Run now," he ordered. "Trust me." The sisters hesitated only for a second before following him with trembling steps. As they rushed down the metal hallway, heavy footsteps echoed behind them, but Jace didn't look back. He knew one thing for sure. These sisters were not objects. They were lives worth protecting, and he had already made his decision. He was taking them home, no matter what stood in his way. The metal hallway shook with every alarm as Jace pulled Lyra and Nolly forward. The red warning lights flashed again and again, painting their frightened faces in bright color. Nolly's breathing was fast, almost painful, while Lyra kept looking behind them as if expecting guards to appear at any moment. "Jace." "They're coming," Lyra whispered in a shaking voice. "I know," he replied, "but we're not stopping." The facility was built like a maze, twisting in confusing shapes. Doors appearing and disappearing with every corner. Jace had never been here before, but he trusted his instincts. He always said that a soldier's instinct was better than any map. Now he hoped it was still true. They ran past empty rooms filled with strange machines. cages, and screens showing other alien captives. Nolly slowed down, horrified by what she saw. "Why are they doing this to us?" she cried softly. Jace answered without looking back. "Because bad people exist everywhere," he said. "But that doesn't mean we let them win." He finally reached a heavy door with a glowing blue pad. He placed his hand on it, hoping it would open. A robotic voice answered, "Unauthorized human detected." The door stayed locked. Jace cursed under his breath and looked around quickly. He noticed a small vent on the wall, too small for him, but perfect for the sisters. He knelt down and opened it with one strong pull. "Both of you go inside," he ordered. Lyra shook her head immediately. "No, we won't leave you," she said, her voice breaking. Jace gave her a firm look. "I'm not staying behind permanently," he said. "I'll meet you on the other side." But Nolly tried to speak, her voice trembling. He placed his hand on her shoulder gently. "I promise to take you both home," he said, "and I keep my promises." Finally, Lyra nodded, tears in her eyes. She helped her sister crawl into the vent, then looked at Jace one last time. "Don't let them hurt you," she whispered. He gave a tiny smile. "I don't plan to," he said, as soon as they disappeared. Into the vent, the pounding footsteps of guards echoed through the hall. Jace stood tall, ready for them. 3 armored guards turned the corner with electric spears in their hands. Human. One shouted, "You disobeyed the directive." Jace took a deep breath. He wasn't here to fight. But he wasn't going to surrender either. "I'm leaving with the girls," he said. "Move aside." The guards laughed. "You think you can win against us?" Jace didn't answer with words. Instead, he grabbed the metal railing from the wall and snapped it off with one strong pull. It wasn't a weapon, just a piece of steel. But in his hands, it was enough. The first guard attacked quickly. Jace dodged and hit the guard in the chest, sending him crashing into the wall. The second guard swung his electric spear. Jace blocked it with the metal bar and kicked his legs out. Electric sparks flashed around the corridor. Jace felt pain shoot up his arm, but he didn't stop. He struck the last guard across the helmet, knocking him to the floor, but the alarms kept screaming. More guards would arrive soon. He dropped the metal bar and ran toward the door again. He noticed the fallen guard's key card glowing on his armor. Jace grabbed it and slapped it against the blue pad. The door slid open with a hiss. "Please be safe," he whispered, thinking of the sisters crawling through the vents. Then he stepped through the door and continued running. He didn't know what dangers waited ahead. He didn't know if he could escape this facility alive. But one thing was crystal clear. Lyra and Nolly were counting on him. And a human never breaks a promise. Asterisk. Inside the narrow vent, Lyra and Nolly crawled slowly, their silver glowing skin brushing against the cold metal walls. The vent was dark, tight, and filled with the sound of distant alarms. Nolly's hands kept trembling, but Lyra pushed her forward. Softly, "Just keep going," she whispered. "Jace will find us." But Nolly's voice shook. "What if they catch him? What if he doesn't come back?" Lyra closed her eyes for a moment. She didn't want to imagine that Jace is human, she said quietly. "Humans don't give up." They reached a small grate and peeked through it. Below them was a huge control room filled with alien officers running around in panic. Dozens of screens showed different parts of the facility, including the hallway where Jace fought earlier. Nolly covered her mouth. "Lyra, look," she whispered, pointing to a screen. The screen showed Jace running alone in a long corridor. He looked tired, but determined. 3 more guards were chasing after him. Nolly felt her stomach twist in fear. "We have to help him," she said suddenly. Lyra grabbed her hand. "No, we stay hidden," she insisted. "But he saved us," Nolly said. "He is risking everything." Before Lyra could answer, the vent shook violently. Robotic voice echoed through the facility. Intruder. In Sector D, capture the human alive. Nolly stared at her sister with wide eyes. They will torture him, she whispered. They will find us too. Lyra forced herself to breathe slowly. We escape first, she said. Then we save him. It sounded brave, but inside. Lyra was just as scared as Nolly. They continued crawling until the vent opened into a storage room. Lyra pushed the grate open and dropped down quietly. Then she helped Nolly climb out. The room was filled with old equipment, empty crates, and dusty uniforms. Nolly walked toward a small window. We can break this and get out, she said, but Lyra pulled her back quickly. No, she whispered. There are guards outside. They hid behind a crate as the door suddenly slid open. 2 alien workers walked in, talking loudly. I heard the human knocked out 5 guards. One said, he's dangerous. The other replied, if he finds the sisters, everything is ruined. Lyra and Nolly froze. They waited until the workers left. Then Lyra whispered, they want us. For breeding. For experiments. They think humans are tools. Nolly hugged herself tightly. Jace doesn't treat us like that, she whispered. Lyra nodded. That's why we have to stay strong. Meanwhile, Jace was running through another corridor, his breathing heavy. He had taken several hits already, and his arm burned from the electric strikes. But he didn't slow down. He kept remembering the sisters' frightened faces. He kept hearing their soft voices. He had promised them safety. He reached a dead end, another locked door. Damn it, he muttered, pressing buttons on the keypad. Behind him, he heard footsteps approaching fast. He looked around desperately and noticed a ventilation shaft above him. He pulled himself up with effort and pushed the cover open. He crawled inside just as guards entered the hallway below. The vent was narrow and difficult for him, but he forced himself forward, wincing at the pain in his shoulder. Lyra, Nolly, please be safe, he whispered. Back in the storage room, Nolly suddenly gasped. Lyra. Listen. A soft, metallic sound came from above. Someone was crawling in the vents. At first, they froze, thinking it was a guard. But then they heard a familiar voice whispering through the metal. Girls? Are you there? Nolly burst into tears. It's Jace. Lyra climbed onto the crates and tapped the vent. Great, Jace. We're here. She whispered back urgently. The grate opened slowly. Jace's face appeared, tired, but smiling. He held out his hand, ready to get out of this place. He asked gently. The sisters nodded. Their hope returned. But they had no idea the hardest part of the escape was still ahead. Jace helped Lyra and Nolly climb back into the vent. His breath was uneven, and sweat rolled down his forehead. But when he looked at the sisters, he forced a small smile. Stay close behind me, he whispered, and stay quiet. The vent was barely big enough for him, and every movement made his shoulder throb with pain, but he pushed forward, crawling slowly, leading the sisters deeper into the maze above the facility. Below them, they could hear guards shouting orders, boots running, and machines powering. Up, Nolly whispered nervously. They are searching everywhere. Jace nodded. That means they're scared, he said softly. Scared because they know humans don't run alone. Lyra watched him carefully. He was clearly hurt, his arm shaking whenever he put weight on it. Jace. You're injured, she whispered. He shrugged gently. I've been worse, he said. But his voice carried pain underneath. They reached another grate, and Jace pushed it open carefully. The 3 of them dropped into a dark corridor. This one quieter than the others. Only a single emergency light flickered at the end of the hall. Jace studied the signs on the wall. Sector F. That means we're close to the hangar, he said. Nolly blinked with hope. The hangar? Ships? Small ones, Jace answered, but enough to get us out if we're lucky. just as they started moving toward the flickering light. A deep mechanical hum echoed through the corridor. The sisters froze. Jace's face hardened instantly. "They activated the drones," he murmured before he finished speaking. A circular drone floated around the corner, glowing blue. It scanned the hallway slowly, searching for movement. Jace grabbed the sisters and pulled them behind a large pipe. The drone let out a sharp noise. Then another drone appeared behind it. "They're sweeping every corridor," Lyra whispered fearfully. Jace leaned closer to her ear. "Stay low and don't breathe loud," but Nolly, trembling uncontrollably, hit her elbow against the metal pipe. The sound echoed across the hall like a bell. The drones instantly turned toward them, lights turning red. A loud alarm rang. "Target detected. Human and 2 life forms, run." Jace shouted, pulling them forward. The drones fired bright stun pulses that burned into the walls. The air filled with sparks and smoke as the 3 ran down the hallway. Jace pushed Lyra ahead of him. "Don't look back," he yelled, but he did look back and saw 2 more drones flying after them. Nolly stumbled, and Jace caught her before she fell. He lifted her up with his good arm, even though the pain almost made him collapse. "Keep going, Lyra," he barked. Lyra looked back with panic. "I won't leave you." "You're not leaving," he said. "You're leading the way." Lyra forced herself to run faster, tears forming in her eyes. They reached another locked door. Jace slid the stolen keycard across the panel. It beeped once, then the door opened slightly, only halfway through it. Jace shouted, pushing Lyra and Nolly into the gap. The drones were seconds away, firing again. Sparks exploded past Jace's shoulder. Burning his jacket, he forced himself through the gap last. But before the door could close, a drone fired a final pulse. It hit Jace's lower back, sending sharp pain through his whole body. He collapsed to one knee as the door finally shut behind them. Lyra rushed to him immediately. "Jace. Jace, get up," she cried. Nolly grabbed his arm, panic in her glowing eyes. "Please don't die," she whispered, voice cracking. Jace winced. Forcing himself to breathe, he slowly pushed himself up. "I'm not dying today," he said, managing a weak smile. "We still have a ship to steal." Even injured, he stood up again, even hunted. He moved forward because he wasn't escaping for himself. He was escaping for them. And nothing in the galaxy was going to stop him now. Asterisk. Jace leaned against the cold wall for a moment, trying to keep his balance. Lyra and Nolly stood beside him, both terrified but refusing to leave his side. The hallway ahead was darker than any they had seen so far, lit only by a faint blue strip. Across the floor, Jace. "Maybe you should rest," Lyra whispered softly. He shook his head, forcing his body to stay strong. "If I stop, they catch us," he said. "And if they catch us, they separate you too." Nolly flinched, hugging herself tightly. "No," she whispered. "We stay together." "Always," Jace nodded. "Exactly." "So we keep moving." They followed the glowing strip until it led them to a huge door marked Hangar 3. Jace breathed out slowly. "This is it," he said. "If we open this, we might see ships." Lyra placed her hand on the panel. "But what if there are guards?" "Then we improvise," Jace said, his voice firm even through the pain. He slid the stolen keycard across the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door began to lift slowly with a heavy mechanical noise. What they saw behind it made all 3 freeze. The hangar was massive, filled with metal crates, fuel lines, and several small transport ships. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was the group of armored guards waiting inside, at least 10 of them standing in formation. Their leader stepped forward, tall with dark armor and glowing red symbols on his helmet. He looked directly at Jace. "Human," he said, voice deep and cold. "You should have chosen one sister and left quietly." Nolly grabbed Lyra's arm tightly. Lyra stepped closer to Jace, her voice shaking. You said only one of us was needed. Why take us? The leader tilted his head. Your people carry strong genetics, he said. Humans survive everything. Wars, disease, starvation. He pointed at Jace. This one has strength unmatched. By our kind, Jace's eyes narrowed. You're not repopulating your clan. He said, you're building soldiers. The leader smiled slowly. At last, the human understands. Before the guards could move forward, Jace whispered sharply. Get behind me, Lyra, and Nolly obeyed instantly. Hiding behind his shoulders, Jace looked around quickly. He had no weapon, no escape route, and he was badly injured. But he had something the aliens didn't: desperation, a promise, and the stubborn human courage that the galaxy always feared. The leader raised his hand. Seize them, he ordered. The guards moved fast, stepping forward with long, heavy strides. Jace grabbed a loose fuel pipe lying beside a crate and swung it with all his strength. The first guard tried to block, but Jace smashed the pipe into his helmet, dropping him instantly. The hangar erupted into chaos, guards shouting, boots thundering across the floor. Lyra pulled Nolly behind a crate as Jace forced himself into the fight. His injured body screamed with pain, but he ignored every warning. His muscles gave. 2 guards rushed at him. He ducked under the first strike and slammed the pipe into the guard's knee. The second tried to stab him with a shock baton. Jace caught the guard's wrist, twisted it, and drove his elbow into the guard's throat, but more guards came. Jace couldn't hold them all off forever. He looked back and shouted, Lyra, Nolly, find a ship, start it. Lyra's eyes widened, but we don't know how. You'll figure it out, he yelled. Go. Lyra grabbed Nolly's hand and dragged her toward the nearest small transport ship. They ran up the loading ramp, breathing hard. Inside the cockpit, glowing symbols covered the controls. Nolly panicked. This is too hard, Lyra. We can't fly this. Lyra stared at the control panel, fear shaking her voice. We have to. Jace is out there alone. Outside, Jace fought desperately. The leader stepped forward, drawing a long electric blade. You are strong, human, he said, but you are only one. Jace pointed the fuel pipe at him. Breathing hard. Funny, he said, because I only need to be one behind him. The ship engine suddenly powered on with a loud roar. Lyra had done it. Jace smiled painfully. Hope burned in his chest again. He just had to reach the ship. If he failed, everything was over. The transport ship's engines roared louder, shaking the entire hangar. Lyra sat in the pilot's seat with trembling hands while Nolly tried to read the glowing symbols beside her. The ship hummed, lights flickering awake, but neither sister knew how to make it rise. Outside, Jace stood between the sisters and the alien guards, gripping the fuel pipe with both hands, his breathing heavy. The leader marched toward him, electric blade glowing in bright blue light. You cannot win, the alien said calmly. You are injured, outnumbered, and weak. Jace laughed, even though it hurt. Maybe, but I'm also human, he said, raising the pipe again. And humans don't stop. The alien charged first, swinging the blade in a fast arc. Jace barely dodged it, sparks flying across his cheek. He countered with a hard strike, but the leader blocked it easily inside the cockpit. Nolly panicked as she saw the fight through the glass. Lyra. He can't hold them, she cried. We have to help. I'm trying, Lyra shouted, pushing random controls. The ship lurched forward a little, but didn't lift off. Jace fought hard, blocking and striking, but his body was giving up. His arm shook, his vision blurred, and every breath felt sharp like broken glass. Still, he did not step back. Every strike he made came from one thought: I must reach them. 2 guards rushed him from behind. He spun and hit one in the jaw. But the other stabbed his leg with a shock stick. Electric pain shot up his body, forcing him to one knee. Nolly screamed from inside the ship. Jace. The leader lifted his glowing blade to strike the final blow. Jace looked up. Sweat and blood running down his face. His muscles refused to move. His mind screamed to continue. But his body was done. Inside the ship, Lyra's eyes filled with terror. She slammed her palm against a large blue symbol on the controls. Suddenly, the ship jolted upward. Rising a few feet above the ground, Nolly gasped. "You did it." Lyra shook her head. "No, not yet." "Hold on." She pushed another glowing switch. The ship shot forward suddenly, its nose dropping slightly. Before either sister could react, the transport flew straight toward the group of guards. The leader heard the engine scream behind him and turned sharply. His eyes widened. The ship was coming right at them. Jace used the distraction to roll out of the way, collapsing behind a crate. The ship didn't hit the guards directly, but the force and wind knocked several of them off their feet. The leader jumped aside with incredible speed, slamming his blade into the floor to stop himself. The ship skidded to a rough stop, metal scraping loudly. The ramp dropped open automatically. Lyra leaned out, shouting, "Jace, get inside." Jace tried to stand, but his leg refused to hold him. He fell again, panting. Lyra's heart broke at the sight. Nolly ran down the ramp, despite Lyra shouting after her. She slid beside Jace and placed his arm over her shoulders. "Come on," she cried. "Please get up. Please." Jace gritted his teeth, using the last bit of strength he had left. Together Nolly and he stumbled toward the ramp. Guards were already recovering, their weapons rising again. The leader pointed at the ship, shouting, "Stop them." Blaster fire cut through the air, hitting the ramp and walls. Jace pushed Nolly up first, then dragged himself inside, falling onto the metal floor with a grunt. Lyra slammed the ramp button, closing it fast. She jumped back into the pilot's seat. "Hold on," she shouted. The ship lifted shakily into the air, rising higher as guards ran beneath it in panic. The leader watched them escape, his jaw tight with rage. "This is not over," he muttered, eyes glowing with hatred. Inside the ship, Nolly hugged Jace tightly. "Don't die," she whispered, tears falling. "Please don't die." Jace forced a weak smile. "I'm not dying yet," he said softly. "I still have to get you to home." But none of them knew the facility was only the beginning of the danger. The galaxy itself was about to join the hunt. Asterisk. The transport ship shook as it rose higher into the air. Lyra gripped the controls tightly, her hands still trembling. Nolly stayed beside Jace, pressing a cloth to the bleeding wound on his leg. His breathing was weak, but his eyes stayed open, focused on the sisters. "Don't worry," he whispered. "Just get us far from that place." Lyra swallowed hard. "I'm trying," she said softly. "But I don't know how to fly this." The ship's screen lit up suddenly with blinking symbols and a loud warning. "Pursuit ships approaching." Nolly's eyes widened. "No. They're coming after us." Jace moved painfully, pulling himself up to sit against the wall. His voice was rough but steady. "That captain, he won't let you go. Not after you escaped." Outside, through the cockpit glass, small enemy ships launched from the facility and shot into the sky, their engines glowing like angry fireflies in the dark. Lyra gripped the controls even tighter. "What do we do, Jace?" Jace looked at the control panel, scanning it with tired eyes. "See that yellow lever?" He pointed weakly. "Pull it." Lyra did, and the ship lurched forward with a sudden burst of speed, sending all three of them flying toward the back. The engine roared like a beast awakened. The enemy ships followed quickly, firing bright shots that flashed past the transport. Nolly screamed and held on to Jace. Lyra fought the controls, the ship shaking violently. "Jace, it won't stay steady." "Good," he said. Despite the pain, a shaky target is harder to hit. He dragged himself closer to the cockpit, every movement hurting like fire. "Lyra, keep it straight." "Nolly, help me get to the back." Nolly nodded and helped him. "Crawl to the rear of the ship where a small panel glowed red." "What is this?" She whispered. "A defense system," Jace said, "if it still works." He smacked the panel hard with his fist. Suddenly, two small turret cannons unfolded from the bottom of the ship. Their lights blinked awake, tracking the enemy ships. Automatically, Lyra gasped from the front. "Something's happening." The turrets fired a quick burst of bright energy straight behind them. The first enemy ship exploded instantly. The second dodged but struggled to keep up. A third tried to circle around but got hit by another burst, spinning out of control. Nolly stared with wide eyes. "Jace, you knew this ship had weapons." Jace wiped sweat from his forehead. "No," he admitted, "but I hoped." The last remaining enemy ship fired one last desperate shot at them. The blast hit the side of their transport. Shaking it violently, Lyra almost lost control. "Hold on," she cried as the ship dipped dangerously. Jace forced himself to stand and grabbed the side rail. "You can do it, Lyra. Pull the red switch." She slammed her hand on it. The ship shot upward at full power, rising above the clouds, leaving the enemy far below. Finally, silence. The alarms faded. The enemy ships disappeared into the distance. They had escaped. The sisters rushed to Jace, who collapsed onto the metal floor, exhausted and pale. Nolly cupped his face, tears falling. "You've saved us," she whispered. Jace smiled weakly. "You saved yourselves," he said. "I just helped a little." Lyra knelt beside them, her own eyes wet. "You didn't have to fight for us," she said softly. "You could have left." Jace shook his head slowly. "No, humans don't leave people behind." He looked at them with warmth and softness they had never seen before. "You're safe now." "You're free," Nolly hugged him suddenly, holding him like he was the only safe thing in the universe. Lyra wrapped her arms around both of them. For the first time since being taken, the sisters felt real hope. The kind that warmed their hearts instead of breaking them. Outside the window, stars stretched across the sky like glowing rivers. A new path waited for them, a future far away from cages, fear, and pain. A future where Jace would protect them, and they would stand beside him as the ship drifted into the quiet darkness of space. One truth became clear. They were not just escaping anymore. They were beginning a new life. Together, stronger than any enemy, stronger than any fear, and bound forever by the human who refused to choose only one. *.